All right, let's jump right into one of the most, well, let's be honest, one of the most uncomfortable laws of power there is. The idea here is that in the big game of life, of your career, the people you really need to watch out for aren't your enemies. Nope, it's your friends. I know, it sounds completely backward, but trust me, history tells a much darker, much more brutal story.
And Voltaire just hits the nail on the head here. He wasn't just being witty for the sake of it, you know? He was getting at something really deep about people. Think about it. An enemy is pretty straightforward. You know what to expect. But a friend? Oh man, their feelings, their motives, that's a whole different, much messier ballgame. So, to really see how this plays out, how it can go so horribly wrong, we're going to go back in time. We're talking the Byzantine Empire, and a young emperor whose decision to trust his best friend, well, it didn't just end badly. It led to his own murder. This is the story of Michael III, and believe me, it's a serious cautionary tale.
Just try to put yourself in his shoes for a second. You're young, you're on the throne, but you have no idea what you're doing. And you're surrounded by people who are just waiting for a chance to stab you in the back. I mean, literally. The court was a total viper's nest. So what do you need more than anything? Someone you can trust. Someone who's got your back for real.
So who does he choose? Does he pick some experienced advisor, a battle-hardened general? Nope. He picks his best friend, a guy named Basilius. This was a man who started as a stable boy. Michael had given him everything, money, status, a whole new life. And Michael's thinking was, this guy owes me his entire life. Of course he'll be loyal. And that right there was the mistake that would cost him everything.
Just look at how this unfolds. It's actually kind of chilling when you see it laid out like this. Michael just keeps piling on the gifts, wealth, and education, real power. He gives Basilius the world. And what does Basilius do with that power? First, he talks Michael into getting rid of his own uncle, a potential rival. And once that guy's out of the picture, what's the next logical step for Basilius? You guessed it. He kills Michael, the very man who made him, and snatches the throne for himself.
And here's the breaking point. Michael, who's been living it up, runs out of cash. So he goes to his best buddy Basilius and says, "Hey, can I get some of that money back that I gave you?" And Basilius, he just refuses, flat out. The old texts say he had this look of impudence. Can you imagine? In that single moment, Michael must have realized his mistake. The gratitude he banked on? Gone, replaced by pure, raw ambition. It was only a few weeks after that they found him dead.
So what's going on here? How does this happen? How does this incredible act of generosity create a monster instead of a loyal ally? Well, it all comes down to the weird, tricky psychology of what happens to friendship when you mix in power and money. And this is where we get to the core of law number 2. You have to be wary of friends. Why? Because they can get envious really easily. But a former enemy? Someone you've beaten, but then you showed him mercy? That person has everything to prove to you. They're often way more loyal, way more reliable.
Okay, let's break this down, because this is where it gets really interesting. When you hire a friend, every favor you do for them just becomes an expectation. You're always trying not to hurt their feelings, so honesty gets fuzzy. And all the while, resentment can be bubbling up just beneath the surface. Now flip that. With a former enemy, it's all business. They don't expect a thing from you, so anything you give them feels like a gift. Their loyalty isn't about feelings, it's about mutual self-interest. And honestly, that's a much more solid foundation to build on.
You know, the Roman historian Tacitus figured this out 2,000 years ago. He said that getting a huge favor can feel like a crushing weight, like a debt you can never, ever pay back. It's a burden. But getting revenge? That feels good. That feels like a win. It's a pretty dark take on human nature, but man, is it powerful.
Okay, so we've seen how this can go disastrously wrong. But what happens when a leader actually gets this right? Let's hop over to 10th century China, where a brand new emperor was facing the exact same problem as Michael III. The difference? He handled it like an absolute master strategist.
So Emperor Sung takes the throne, and the system is basically broken. It's just a revolving door of emperors getting knocked off by their own generals, the very people who are supposed to be their closest allies. He knew, right away, that if he didn't change the game, he was going to be next.
And his solution was just genius. He doesn't kill his rivals, no. He invites them all to this huge party, and he basically offers them a golden cage. He says, look, I'll give you insane riches, beautiful homes, a life of total luxury. All you have to do is give up your armies. He bribed them into retirement. In one single brilliant move,
He turned a pack of hungry wolves into happy, docile lambs, miles away from any real power.
But wait, he wasn't done. That was only part one. For part two, he took the guys who had actually fought against him, the rebels he defeated, and instead of the chopping block, he gave them pardons and jobs. Think about it. If you're saved from execution, you're not just grateful, you're loyal for life. And these former enemies with so much to prove became the bedrock of his support.
It's exactly what Abraham Lincoln was talking about with this quote. Emperor Sung totally destroyed his enemies, not by spilling their blood, but by turning them into friends. He made it so that their own success was completely tied to his.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This is all emperors and generals. What does it have to do with me? Well, this law is playing out right now, today, in boardrooms, in politics, in every startup garage. The names and titles have changed, but the fundamental game of power, it's exactly the same.
I mean, just think about it. We've all seen this, right? The business partner who thinks they deserve a bigger slice of the pie and starts plotting behind your back. The trusted advisor in politics who leaks a damaging story to help their own career. Or the classic one, the startup that goes under because the CEO hired all their college friends instead of the people who actually knew what they were doing. It's the same pattern over and over. That closeness, that friendship, it creates the perfect breeding ground for betrayal.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's pretty simple, really. When it comes to your career, your goals, you've got to maintain some professional distance. Your friends are for your life, not necessarily for your payroll. You need to build your team with the most competent people you can find, period. Liking someone is just not the same as them being good at their job. Competence will always beat affection in the long run. But here's the thing with these laws of power. There's always a twist, there's always a reversal, and this one is dark. It's about the one time when using a friend isn't just a good idea, it's the most powerful move you can make. But you have to be willing to be completely ruthless.
It has a name, the fall of the favorite. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's when you've made a mistake or you've done something unpopular and you need someone to take the fall for you. And who do you choose? Your close friend. Using them as a scapegoat is, well, brutally effective.
So why does this work so well? It's all about the cold, hard logic. First, because they're your friend, they're more likely to agree to do the dirty work for you. Second, and this is the key, everyone else sees how close you are, so they'll never believe you'd throw your own friend under the bus on purpose. Your hands look clean, and your reputation stays intact. But let's be crystal clear about this. You only get to play this card once. The second you sacrifice a friend like that, the friendship is dead, gone, forever. It's maybe the starkest reminder there is that in the game of power, everything has a price.
When you boil it all down, the lesson is pretty sobering. The knife that eventually gets you, it's almost never held by the enemy you see coming. It's held by the person who was standing right there beside you the whole time. And all of this leaves us with one final, really uncomfortable question. A question you have to ask yourself as you go about your own life, your own career. When there's real ambition, real money, real power on the line, can any friendship truly be considered safe?